We are in Yerushalmi Berachos Daf Tes Zayin in the Ozohar print. As I always like to say when we do certain parshas of Shemos, if you listen well, you have a good vart for Pesach. So today you have some really good vart for Pesach because we're going to be talking about the famous Mishnah of Rabbi Elezar ben Azarya, Harei Anika ben Shiv Mishana. I also want to share one quick ha'ara just about quoting psukim in Berachos. Very, very fascinating. Okay, so let's get started, and hopefully tomorrow we'll do some historical stuff. So the Gemara says that if you add the pasuk Tzali Veroni Yoshevet Sion, which seem to have been added in some haftorahs, the brachas on haftorah, for example, in Rachem, it would say Rachem al Sion ki beis chayenu, baluvas nefesh shoshi amei Rabbi amenu Kakasuv Tzali Veroni. We don't. That's not our minhag. But if you add that, it's fine. It's not a prohibition. Ein bo mishum bracha pasuk. There's an isser that the Yerushalmi is talking about that you're not allowed to say an actual pasuk as the bracha itself. Now you might ask, well, what do you mean? We do in benching. We say Kakasuv v'yachalta v'savata v'rata. It's a pasuk. So the answer is that no, you're allowed to do it if you say Kakasuv or Ka'amor. So you're allowed to do it. It's an interesting topic because the Avlujar Home again brings down a lot of the sukkim, a lot of the brachas that we say, and also a lot of the things in Shemona Esrei are really based on psukim, but there's often a little change where we're not actually quoting the pasuk itself, which is an interesting thing. And there's a lot to talk about what this isser, so to speak, is, but that's what it's saying, that if you say Kakasuv, Tzali Veroni, it's fine. Now in benching, there's two times that we might quote a pasuk. One of them is Kakasuv v'yachalta v'savata, which is in the actual text, and the other one is in the first paragraph of benching, which might be the reason people don't say it, where some people have a minhag to say Ka'amor, Pasechas v'decham asvil chachai ratzon. It could be that since we're trying to cut out psukim, maybe that's why that's not quoted, but it is a very important pasuk that we say in Ashrei 3 times a day, and it's very appropriate for benching because it talks about how Hashem is Zan and Mefarnes us. It's interesting, and hopefully we'll talk about the Hashmatos, I keep promising it, but the things that are missing in Yerushalmi. So there's a lot to talk about that pasuk, and about someone who says Parshas Aman every day, and about Parnasa from Hashem, but hopefully we'll get to that at the right time. Today I want to go to the Pesach Haggadah, which is based on, which is the Mishnah. So it says in the Mishnah on Tesai and Mabez and it was Vater print, Maskir Yitzias and Saram Balelos. We say Yitzias and Saram at night, which means that when we say Shema, so we mentioned Laman Tizkiru Asem, we say Ani Hashem Alekechem Asher Tzei Eschem Eretz Mitzrayim. We mention that pasuk at night. Amar Lahem Rabbi Elezar. Now, Amar Lahen Rabbi Elezar ben Azarya, I'm like 70 years old, and I couldn't get this halacha done until Ben Zoma came along and said, Laman Tiskar Yom Tiskar Mitzrayim, Kol Yimei Chayacha Yamim is the days, Kol Yimei Chayacha is Halaylos. So the Rabbanan held that you don't say that part of Shema at night, and Rabbi Elezar ben Azarya spent his career trying to push for it. Now, there's a couple of famous things here. One of them is that the Gemara in Berachos, Bavli, says explicitly that when he says that he was 70 years old, he wasn't actually 70 years old. He was actually 18. So there's a couple of problems. Okay, the first problem is that the Yerushalmi later on, I believe it's in the 4th parak, says explicitly that in that story that the Bavli has, he wasn't 18. He was actually 16. Now let's pause. So what difference does it make? Okay, so first of all, there's a famous vart that everybody likes to quote, which I don't fully understand, but something along the lines of that Rabbi Elezar ben Azarya was a Gilgal of Shmuel Hanavi, and therefore Shmuel died at age 52, and therefore he had those 52 years, so when he was 18, it was as if he was 70, that's what's being said. I don't know, Shmuel Hanavi was one that established where Eretz Yisrael should be, and anointed David HaMelech, which brings Mashiach, so that might have something to do with Mazkir Yitzias Yisrael Balelos, and the Chacham are arguing and saying it's Lahavi L'Musa Mashiach, but we'll save that for a different time. There's probably some Ramazim going on here. But so one problem is that the Yerushalmi says he was 16. So Ravadia in his Haggadah Shal Pesach, Ravadia Yosef, that's all, he asks his kasha, and he tries to reconcile by saying the following. He brings down a few Mefarshim, but one shot that he says on that, in this part of the Haggadah, is that really he was 17. And according to the Bavli, it says he was 18, so he had completed 17 years, and he was in his 18th year. Just like if I'm 1 year old, I'm not actually one. I'm in my 2nd year, right? When you're born, you're 0, and then you turn 1. That means you've completed 1 year. Think about it. So if your age is 50, you're actually in your 51st year. So he was really 17, but he called himself 18 because that's how it referred to. And the Rambam has a shita that in all Mishayos, he often says this. He says that whenever it says like Ben Chamesh L'Mikra or Shmona Esrei L'Chuppah, it really means the younger year. Okay, and the Yerushalmi that says he was 16, so that meant that he completed his 16 years and he was in his 17th year. So he was really 17, the way you and I call 17 nowadays, which is more precise. But anyway, there's a lot of different ha'aras to say. It's interesting. A lot of the Mefarshei Yerushalmi don't deal with this discrepancy. But there's another problem. The second problem is Manskiri and Siyas and Rabbi we mentioned it at night. Amar lahen Rabbi Elezar and Azarya. In the Mishnayos and the Babli, it doesn't say lahem. It doesn't say he said anything to them. It just says Amar Rabbi Elezar and Azarya, like in the Haggadah. But in the Yerushalmi, it has the word lahen. Now, just hold on to that because it is significant. Girsos, even that word, I believe I have a shot that you might like. There's another problem, which is that the Yerushalmi here says explicitly a very interesting thing. And the Yerushalmi says, it's a very fascinating thing, that Afal Pisha Nichnas L'Gedula, even though Rabbi Elezar and Azarya assumed a position of prominence, Herach Yamim, he still had a long life. Huh? What are you talking about? I thought you agree with the Babli that he was really only 16, 17. So here, Hada Amra Shagedula Makatar Yamim. Normally it's Makatar Yamim. So wait a minute. Why are you saying he's not old? He's not really 70. So you don't have any proof. But yet the Yerushalmi seems to be saying that no, he really was old. So when this Mishnah was said, he actually was old. Okay, so let's zoom out for a moment. So it's not a contradiction to say that when he actually made this statement, he actually was really older, at least according to the Yerushalmi. Therefore, the Yerushalmi is saying that even though normally a person that goes to Gedula is gonna have his life cut short, here he lived to age 70, which back then was considered old. Now, one second, just let me pause because there's a couple of ha'aras on this. Okay, so one ha'ara that is brought down by the Charedim and other people is that the Charedim says explicitly that you see clearly Yerushalmi holds that, and I'm really excited to talk about the Charedim for tomorrow. There's so much to say about him. That the Yerushalmi holds clearly that this comment was made towards the end of it, while he was older. He was actually 70. Okay. Then the other one, which is interesting, is that the question is, wait a minute. So everyone that has Gedula dies early? Like, what does that even mean? And why is it that someone who goes to a position of prominence dies? And it's interesting because it says by Yosef Atzadik that he was supposed to live to 120, but he lost 10 years because of, Sarara that he had over his brothers. So what is this? So Maram Chaviv has a pshat, which is based on the Bavli and Psachim, that it says Ayla Rabbanas Mekareves es Bala, that Rabbanas actually makes people die. And Rashi and the Iri both say that when a person has authority and uses it arrogantly, that causes him to die. So we see that really, when a person is humble, then that will keep him living a long time. Okay? So, what do I want to say? I want to say like this. So remember my ha'ara that, is it Amar Lahem Rabbi Elezar and Azarya, or is it Amar Rabbi Elezar and Azarya? That's one ha'ara. The other ha'ara is, how old is he? Is he 18, 17, or is he actually 70? Clearly, the Bavli held doesn't have the word Lahem, and the Bavli held that he was actually a little young man at this time, and the Yerushalmi held that it has the word Lahem, and he was older. Let me ask one more question, then I'll tie everything together. That is, wait a minute, he's arguing with the Chachamim? How dare him? The Chachamim hold that you don't say Yitzias Mitzrayim at night. You actually don't say the Vayomer. And it's interesting because the Gemara here quotes Taman Amr in Bavel. They say that you should not say Vayomer. Now you see that even when the Yerushalmi was being written, which was hundreds of years before the Bavli even took the Yerushalmi and rewrote it, so to speak, and used its own psak, the latter day psak of the Bavli, it knew about the Babylonian opinions, and it says that they don't say Vayomer. They didn't say Vayomer. That was their shita. Okay. But we know that we paskin that we do say Vayomer at night, and we actually paskin like Rabbi Elezar and Azarya. So then you could ask, why do we paskin like him? And also, he brings a raya from the pasuk, Kol Yimei Chayacha Lahavi, right? Lahavi Leilos. But the Chachamim answer it. They say that it's Lahavi the Moshe Mashiach. So what's going on over here? So the Yachin brings down from many of the Mefarshim that no, Rabbi Elezar and Azarya is Pashup Shot in the pasuk. It's not dochek that way. It's very simple. L'man tiskar is Yom Tes Laver Tzrayim. Kol Yimei Chayacha. Yimei Chayacha is the days. Kol Yimei Chayacha means the nights. To give a drasha about Mashiach, it's true. Fine, Chazal teach us that. But the Pashup Shot pasuk is that Rabbi Elezar and Azarya is right, and therefore, since it's simple, that's what we follow. And you see explicitly that the Gemara says that that's what you do. The Yerushalmi's opinion is that you say Yitzias Mitzrayim at night. Period. The Yerushalmi paskins like Rabbi Elezar and Azarya. So with all this, let's tie it all together. According to the Babli, Rabbi Elezar ben Azarya was just a young man. So it's not Amar Lahem. He had respect. He was none of. That's why he had a long life. he didn't use the Gedula against him, and he knew his place. So therefore, as a young man, it's not Amar Lahen. He didn't have the audacity to talk to the Chachamim in the Bavli's version. So therefore, it's Amar Rabbi Elezar ben Azarya. I'm like 70, and then Ben Zoma is the one that defended me and showed that I'm right. Even then, he doesn't push for it. And according to the Yerushalmi, no, he's an older man. So then he has a right, Amar Lahen, he has a right to speak to the Chachamim. At this time, now he could put his authority out because he was 70 now, and now he could say that yes, it's time that the halacha should be established. I think that might be pshat in Amar Lahen, whether that word is there or not. It's interesting. You see a word and you're not sure is it there or is it significant. But anyway, we know that when we say Shema, of course, at night, we also, of course, say the same exact version as day and night. We mention the Yitzias Mitzrayim. Anyway, so those are some ideas you could mention at the Seder, and I'm happy to hear your ha'aros on it as well. Have a great day.